So you see them here in Psalm 97:9. And I guess I should read all of this. So Psalm 97, there's that siren again, darn it. There's something going on. Well, holy moly. I keep getting interrupted. Yeah, Psalm 97, 7-9 says this: Let all those be ashamed who serve graven images, who boast themselves of idols. Worship him, all you gods. Note 2, 7-2, or supernatural powers. So the word here in the Hebrew is Elohim. Elohim, gods. It can mean God, or it can mean gods. It can mean the gods. Verse 8 says, Zion heard this and was glad, and the daughters of Judah have rejoiced. Because of thy judgments, O Lord. And you remember what this means, right? Lord in all capital letters. You know who that is, right? You know what that means? For thou art the Lord most high over all the earth. Thou art exalted far above all gods, far above all gods. Note 1. Supernatural powers. Who are these gods? These are the gods of the nations. These are gods that, in a certain kind of way, were made. What do I mean by that? In Psalm 82, if you remember, you have this important scene, this heavenly scene, and this is the divine council in heaven. That's the view I take. Other people disagree, and so be it. But truly, this is the divine council. God takes his stand in his own congregation. He judges in the midst of the rulers. The rulers. Note 2. The gods. Again, this is Elohim. Later in this psalm, you see here, I said, you are gods, and all of you are sons of the Most High. So there was some time where they were declared gods, but just what that means is understood differently by different people out there. And they are sons of the Most High. This means they are God's heavenly family, and they have royalty being God's heavenly family. So this psalm, like Psalm 97, makes reference to these gods. And some people wonder about this. Did Yahweh form gods? Because from what I've heard, there's never been any gods formed, right? You've heard that before, right? So this is Isaiah chapter 43. And right down here in verse 10, it says the following: "You are my witnesses, declares the Lord, and my servant whom I have chosen, in order that you may know and believe me and understand that I am He. Before me there was no God formed, and there will be none after me." People read this and say, well, Bruno, what you're talking about can't be right. There can't be other gods. And the truth is, the English translations of this really fail to communicate the idea properly. And first of all, you should be aware that there's irony here. Before me, there was no God formed. Okay, but there's no such thing as before me. Do you see the irony? Okay, and likewise, and there will be none after me. Well, there is no after me. There is no such thing. Do you see that? That's the first thing to take note of. The second thing to understand here is that Isaiah is mocking pagan concepts. Okay? This comes from Barnes' notes on the Bible in Isaiah. And I'll link this below if you're interested in looking up the quote for yourself. But in discussing Isaiah 43:10, look what he says here. Before me there was no God formed. I am the only true, the eternal God. In this expression, Jehovah says that he was the first being. He derived his existence from no one. Perhaps the Hebrew will bear a little more emphasis than is conveyed by our translation. Before me, God was not formed, implying that he was God and that he existed anterior to all other beings. It was an opinion among the Greeks that the same gods had not always reigned, but that the more ancient divinities had been expelled by the more modern. It is possible that some such opinion may have prevailed in the Oriental idolatry, and that God here means to say, in opposition to that, that he had not succeeded any other god in his kingdom. His dominion was original, underived, and independent. Those are pretty interesting thoughts from Barnes. I don't think you need to speculate as far as he does, but it's possible that something like the Greek idea was found also among the ancient Near East. You don't need to go that far, though, to explain it. That is what's going on here, a polemic upon pagan beliefs. Barnes goes on to say here, neither shall there be after me. He would never cease to live. He would never vacate his throne for another. This expression is equivalent to that which occurs in the book of Revelation. I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. And he goes on from there, and you can read that if you like. But I agree in as far as there is polemic upon the pagan belief going on here. So that's an interesting perspective from Barnes. And I want to show you one other resource. Here we have the Cambridge Bible for Schools and Colleges, Volume 25. Before me there was no God formed. Strictly, of course, the idea is before any God was formed, I existed. Yeah, I agree with that too. That's a pretty good way of putting it. The form of expression might be derived from the Babylonian cosmology, according to which the gods were the first beings to emerge from the primeval chaos. I like that idea too. You don't have to stipulate Babylonian though. Like this ancient concept though as well was probably being mocked polemically by Isaiah. So I agree with the idea here, but again, they're trying to get specific in what was being countered. I don't know if you need to get as specific. You know, Barnes says a Greek idea that perhaps also existed in the Oriental. Here, the Cambridge is saying the Babylonian, definitely. This one, well, you know, that one and others, I would say. I would say you had more general concepts held widely. There's no reason to zero in on the particular culprit here, but that's who he decides to zero in on, the Babylonian cosmology, according to which gods were the first beings to emerge from the primeval chaos. See, you could say Egyptian, though, too. This is something you could describe concerning Egyptian beliefs as well. You know, a lot of the pagans held beliefs like this in different varieties. That's what I'm saying. And Isaiah, I don't think you need to concern yourself with which exactly he's trying to condemn, you know. The following words occur in the Chaldean account of creation. when of the gods none had yet arisen, when none named a name or determined fate, then were the great gods formed. It is probably to this origin of the gods themselves that reference is made, rather than to the formation of their images. It's certainly not about images here, but yet something like this is referred to. But here's my point. Some people will cite this passage from Isaiah 43 and tell you, well, there couldn't be beings that would come to be gods of the nations. Couldn't be because of this verse in Isaiah. I can imagine someone using that argument. And it's just not a good argument. It's not really what Isaiah 43 is about. And the fact is that God did assign members of the council, the sons of God, to be gods over various peoples and regions, nations. That's the beginning of nations in the eyes of God, following the Tower of Babel.